Guys, thanks for voting. The votes have been cast. Everybody voted for the Merkava, so thanks a lot for that. And let's go and have a look and do this review on this kit from Takom. This was the second release of the Merkava, which is an Israeli main battle tank. It was their indigenous piece of armor. Obviously Israeli Defense Force were involved in numerous battles throughout the 60s and 70s. Warfare with their neighbours, and they use typically US and European main battle tanks, and then they developed the Merkava, which is the Hebrew name for chariot, in the 1970s. Now this is a Mk1 hybrid. I'm not quite too sure what that means. However, the Mk1 was the original version. That was an earlier kit release. And now this is the second release. Very nice box art on the front, as you expect. Got two marking options on the side, pretty atypical. Obviously the same colour. We're going to see this Israeli sand grey. You've got a sprue layout on the side. I believe there's about 400 or 500 parts inside here. So let's open up the box and see what's inside. Okay, so for a starter, we have the two main mouldings with detail incorporated, which is the upper hull. Let's just have a look at that. One feature of the Merkava, of course, is that the engine is located in the front of the hull. So you've got these very finely detailed air intake louvers actually on the front deck. They did this to increase crew survivability. Obviously frontal armour is going to take the hit if you've got an engine block at the front as well. That's going to help defeat armour penetration, save your crew. Here's a very nice feature. This would typically be built up from a number of pieces, but they have this louver totally integrated into the one piece for the upper hull. And you can see the way that this is done is that there's not going to be any light coming through, but you're going to have the depth of that louver there, so that's quite impressive. There's a lot of molded on detail there, but obviously a lot to add. Second large one-piece moulding is, of course, the turret, where they have got, again, lots of detail moulded onto the turret, such as those handles. The weld seams are really nice and pronounced. Those are really going to be great for a wash. You can see here some good detail around the mantlet cover. That will be to hold on the fabric, or a flexible portion of the mantlet there. Let's have a look at these sprues. Won't open that up, but we've got clear optics and lighting. And another large component is the lower hull. And I've come across this before. This is a track jig. So this will enable you to construct the track with probably the road wheels with all the correct sag, so it can be built off the track for ease of painting. So we'll see how that pans out. Lower hull incorporating, again, quite a lot of detail molded on, which you know, eases up the part count. I mean, typically if you've built Dragon kits, every single one of those components has to be added onto the hull, but this I prefer, you know, lesser parts, but you know, really good detail. Looks like quite secure mounting points for the where the bogies go for the road wheels. Just want that to be quite strong. And inside the hull they have these webs here which are providing strength, but more importantly they're actually preventing any warpage or deflection of the plastic in that hull, so that should be good for alignment. I'm going to come back to that bit. I can already see what I like there. I'm not going to open up all of these, but you can sort of see we've got a frame there. This is the outer skirt armour, the side skirts. The barrel is in two halves, which is pretty typical. I'll show you how to get rid of that seam and how I can work with that. Let's open this up and let's have a close-up on some of these details. See what the moulding's like. Let's see what the detail's like. Let's get all this into focus and start having a look through. Like those road wheels. Nice detail molded in there with all the bolts, the open lightning holes. Let's see if there's some other detailed components. Here we are. There's obviously some fabric. Find out what that. I think these might be for the rear turret, rear hull baskets, but we'll find out. Other component, everything looks good. People have had criticism about the sprues being square. They're actually square on Takom kits, and they say that but the sprue connection points are very fine, so there's really no you know, no problem or no effect. So look at these jerry cans. See if we can get in there a little bit. Yeah, very nice detail again. Water, should it be in Hebrew or are the American ones that they used? Not too sure. Let's open up this. Just go through, have a look at the parts that catch my eye. Yeah, again, nice detail, fully, you know, with a lot of depth. That's the 50 cal ammo can there. And let's see if we can get this in here. This is the 50 caliber machine gun. There's a couple that are mounted on here. I think there's two 7.62 millimeters, and this is like a coaxial that's fitted above the main armament that they use to engage light armor, soft targets. You can see the sprue connection point is right on the tip of the barrel, so the barrel's going to be drilled out with a pin vise. Not a problem. So we can get that in. That is the ammo can for the 7.62 millimeter armament, and here is the 7.62 general purpose machine guns that are for the loader and commander to use. Good detail on that. Again, the connection points right on the tip of the barrel, and we'll drill that out if we can. Get these in focus, the tow hooks. And I want to show you something else that I've just seen. Let's go over a little bit over here, down a bit. There we are. These are, I believe, smoke discharges, and they've got, again, full depth and detail on there. Main transmission housing. Quite a lot of parts, a lot of small parts. Okay, now we're coming on to the duplicate sprues, which, as usual, is the lower suspension components, you know, the road wheels, suspension, etc., that you get two of. See that the Israelis opted to use a bogie suspension system that really must be from their experience of British designs, like the Centurion that they used, instead of torsion bars. For whatever reason, doesn't really matter, but what we can show here is the very fine detail on those springs. I don't know if we're going to see that, probably not. It's going to be quite, you know, deep down there, and we've got side skirts on. Road wheels look excellent, really, and you can see here that one road wheel, that must be the outer, this must be the inner, and this is a rim that goes on top of that. So you've got the separate rim, probably more to provide depth. I don't really mind paint. I will assemble them totally and then paint them later anyway, so I don't see that as a advantage or disadvantage for painting. But to provide depth and detail, that's probably the way they've chose to mold it. Drive sprocket looks great as well. Like to see all those bolts and details. Can't vouch for the accuracy, etc. I'm not an expert on Israeli tanks by any means. In fact, I don't think I built one since I was about 14 or 15. So again, identical sprue. So we're taking this on merit of being an accurate build. I mean, it does look like a Merkava. We aren't going to get into the details of it. I might try and do some research from colleagues and friends who know a lot more about this. Here we are. This is link and length style tracks, which are one of my favorites. Yeah, so we've got the large one-piece runs, and then the individual ones that will wrap around sprockets, idler wheels, etc. There won't be any sag or anything on these because you know, it's a modern tank, and they have automatic hydraulic tensioning systems, so you don't have this World War II type sag. But I mean, the real advantage here, of course, is that the tracks are easy and quick to assemble, and they should be even more so with that track jig. We'll go and have a look at the last bits and pieces. So we've got some fine detail components to look at. You've got the decals, decals, or water slide transfers, depending on what you want to hear. These distinctive identification chevrons and the Hebrew script for the markings, and of course the barrel markings as well, which I believe indicate units. Piece of brass flexible wire, which is probably for the recovery cables. Okay, I have to open this up as well to see what's inside here. Okay, so one fret of photo etch. I know Takom use a very fine piece. Find out exactly what they are, but I believe this will be the floor for the turret basket. I think these are for the rear hull baskets, and I'm not too sure what that component is, but we'll find out. Obviously not too much photo etch, so probably a good intermediate style build if you can stick pieces together, which I'm sure you can, and you want to use a bit of photo etch. Maybe this would be a good starter for you. Okay, so we've got a bit of malleable, looks like soft white metal lead type strip, and I will hazard a guess that this is for the turret basket marking, which is, as you can see here, it's actually a, you know, piece of cloth or canvas, whatever, with the unit number painted on, so you can realistically depict that. And very quickly, we're going to skim through the instructions because I will come on to that as we progress the build. So at the front, we've got a historical type explanation telling us about the tank, and we may read that. Actually, it's quite nice to see. Usual cautions, the paint call out. The paint call out is, and we'll probably follow this, entirely Ammo of MiG color references. There's some tips on how to use PE, etc. The parts map, and then we're going to just quickly glance through. The Takom instructions are very clear, 3D exploder diagrams, not overly crowded. A few call outs there on drilling. You can see here's how to assemble the track using the jig. Lower hull is joined onto the upper hull by stage 11, so it's quite quick. Details going on, side skirts, all individual panels. Onto the turret by stage 16, which is adding on details as usual, the hatches, the optics. Further details as we go on. Obviously, turrets are quite crowded, so we've got quite a few assembly pieces on there. Turret halves joined by stage 23. Final details get added on, such as the turret basket, secondary armament, and then there's a call out for these cables. The recovery cables are actually mounted along the turret on the Israeli tanks, which probably makes sense as it allows the crew to get them very quickly. Yeah, final sort of details is using that lead sheet, showing you how it's put on to the turret basket, and then 29 just shows the loose fit of the turret onto the turret hull. Let's have a look at these marking options. Bring this up and show you what this is. So it doesn't actually tell you anything about the unit or whatever. There's just some markings. I'll just check that on the box again. Two markings, obviously the same colours. Not too many paints are used. Single tone colour, obviously on these Israeli tanks, too, as most desert vehicles are. And of course, desert vehicles are wonderful weathering. The colour info is provided by Ammo of MiG, and we will follow that as we come up to the painting, but that is a long way away. Let's get building very shortly. Just going to double check one thing, which is this box side. No, there isn't any historical context of these vehicle markings telling you which unit they were, etc. Probably based on photographs. Can't really vouch for them. Looks a very exciting kit. I want to thank you again for voting and participating in the channel. I'm going to be cracking on to this one, and stay tuned for the next video. See you soon.